Hey family, my name is Chris, I am your home gamer dad, and today I'm going to be talking about spiritual defenders of an island paradise. Whether you are a literal lightning bird, a giant piece of granite defending your land, a series of vines and vegetation come to life, or a river with a mind of your own, each decision that you make will affect the land in which you are trying to protect. So always remember, no matter what you do, no matter how you play it out, when playing Spirit Island, your mileage may vary. For those that are unfamiliar with Spirit Island, you play as a spirit on a tropical island in the middle of who the heck knows where. And basically your island is being invaded by various settlers. They're building houses and villages and full-on cities. And the indigenous people, the Dahan of the island, most of them aren't really adapting very well. And of course, these new settlers that are coming in are blighting the land. They're causing havoc and destruction way more than any normal blight should be on an island. So you have to use your spiritual powers in order to either scare them off completely or ultimately destroy them. You can go either way, and it really depends on what spirit you play as. I've been trying to find a way to bring this to the home gamer dad for a while now because I really love this game. Obviously, because I'm making this episode, and you'll understand why as I go through my reasonings. How I'm going to be able to play it for you will probably be digital because there's a lot to this game that I have to pay attention to rather than also paying attention to all the little details of this and then making sure my recording is going around, my audio, things along that ways. But if I had to recommend getting either the digital or the physical, I will always recommend the physical copy of the game because it is absolutely beautiful. Again, something that I'm going to talk about in my list. Speaking of which, here are 5 reasons why I personally love Spirit Island. You're going to get a little bit of personal story from me and a little bit of my own opinion of it as well. From you out there, what I would like to know is, what do you think of Spirit Island? Do you enjoy playing it? Do you have a group that you like to play with? Do you have a particular spirit you find yourself drawn to that you seem to play all the time? This game has been around for quite a while. There's many expansions for it, and there is a lot to talk about. So I say we get this list going with the first one. Number 1. This was the first real chunky game that I've ever played. And by chunky, I mean component heavy. I mean, this is something that I learned at the last job that I had working with board games and everything. If you had something that had so many components to it that it was just insane the amount of work each one had to go into it, then it was just a chunky game. And there are chunkier games than this out there. You know, the Gloomhaven saga, Gloomhaven, Jolted Lion, and Frosthaven have way more components than this. But this was the very first one that I played that had these types of components to it. Now, yes, I previously did play Wingspan and I did play Everdell, and these could be also kind of classified as chunky in their own right, but there was just something about Spirit Island in the way that you had all of these little pieces and then all of your spirits, but not all the spirits were always used. So you had them, they were there, but you weren't incorporating them into each game. In addition to that, this is probably one of the first real complicated games that I played in my early days of board gaming. Now I play all kinds of different things, and I'm able to pick up a lot of different rules because I've, had different experiences and everything. But my sister and her husband actually introduced this one to me, and it took probably 2 or 3 games for me to really start grasping the idea of how a spirit grows, how a spirit evolves, what you have to do in order to be able to make your spirit powerful in order to scare off all of the little invaders and everything, destroy their cities, destroy their towns, things along that ways. But this is a great game if you want to get into something heavier. This is a great one to start at. And in all honesty, I would probably even begin with Horizons of Spirit Island, which is right now a Target exclusive, but will be more readily available a few years from now from this video. But who knows from, how things change. This game is basically this game, but a little bit, not simpler, but it's more streamlined. They give you a set board for this. You don't have to move things around. The pieces are a little bit easier to look at. And I know that the major and minor powers in here, or at least the majority of them, are the same ones in here, but reworded in a way to make it more accessible to someone brand new to the series. That doesn't mean you shouldn't get both, because in my opinion, every expansion for Spirit Island adds more and more spirits, and that just makes the game more and more replayable. So, next one. Number 2, speaking of the spirits, each spirit is unique and well worth to collect them all. You got a basic tip of the iceberg here when it comes to spirits. There are tons and tons of spirits that can be found throughout the course of all the different expansions and whatever for Spirit Island, and every spirit plays uniquely. It is a very asymmetric game along that ways, where no matter which one you pick up, you're going to have a very different experience for that spirit as you would for a different one that you played or you watching somebody else play. Each spirit does come with its own 4-deck like starter hand, and then as you play through the game, it kind of has a bit of a deck building aspect to it, where you're getting powers and whatnot, but I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. It's more or less just talking about the spirits right now and how awesome they are and how powerful they are and how they kind of range for all different playstyles. The spirits in the base game of Spirit Island range between low and high complexity, but if you want something a little bit easier to start off with, definitely go with Horizons Spirit Island, because I think they're all low complexity. But I mean, it still doesn't matter because they all have a different feel to them regardless of whatever you think that is easy or hard to play. Something like Lightning Swift Strike here is very attack oriented, so you're going to see him go in and do a lot of damage, whereas someone like Vital Strength of the Earth is defense oriented, where they're going to be building up their strength in order to keep all of the Hans safe. And really the big point about Spirit Island is mixing and matching the spirits together in order to find a combination that works well in order to both defend the island and get rid of the invaders. Each expansion has so many spirits in it. So like the base game, I think, had like 8 in it. Horizons has about 6 or 8 in it. Jagged Earth has a bunch of them. You have Branches and Claws, which had 2, and then also introduced new mechanics to the game as well. There are also promo cards that are out there of, I would say, super high complex spirits. There's this one that's a hummingbird that is absolutely ridiculous. You look at this thing and it's like your mind explodes with the amount of information that's on this card. And it's just like, what the hell? I have yet to play that one. I have it, but I have yet to play as it. My favorite of the promos is the giant snake, Serpent slumbering beneath the island. I love this spirit because its whole gimmick is it eats the presence of other spirits, and it's kind of like this Ouroboros snake where it's just eating itself, but it's also getting bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger. Awesome mechanic for that particular one. Again, a higher complexity than just straight damage, straight defense, or like a little bit of both with the, I love Rampant Green as well. This is a moderate, medium style one. But as you can see, the diversity of all the spirits means that no matter who plays this game, they will find one that they will resonate with, and they will make sure that whenever they play that game, that's the spirit that they go to. Again, I have like 2 that I like, the Serpent and Rampant Green here. I know that my sister likes the oceans, and actually her husband's pretty good with the river spirits. So for those that have actually played Spirit Island, what spirit do you gravitate towards? I know I've asked this already, but I'm actually really curious right now. What is your favorite one? How do you like their play style? And what do you do generally on your turns in order to make sure you get the most out of all of their power set? So that's enough about the spirits for right now. As you can see, there's just so much to talk about on them. This is like a video in its own right of like my possible top 5 or whatever favorite spirits of Spirit Island. But for right now, let's go ahead and move on to other things. Number 3, Spirit Island's difficulty can range from, man, that was super easy, to, how do you beat this? And that's not an exaggeration out there either. Those of you that have played Spirit Island, you've probably gone up against the adversary. So one of the coolest things about Spirit Island is its massive replayability. And that would be, you can either play like a free play game where you're just going in and defending the island against the settlers that come in and do their thing, or you can play against adversaries, particular settlers from countries around the world that have found this island and wanted to make it their own. And each one of these adversaries has a list of basic levels that it goes through, from 1 to I think 10, hold on, 6. At least Scotland goes up to level 6 here. And as you play against the adversaries, the difficulty range for this really does get exponentially harder as you go through it. Like, you'll play level 1 England and be like, all right, that wasn't so bad. And then you'll go in to play level 2 England and you're like, holy geez, how did this even like happen? it can go from super great, your island's looking good, to completely blighted in one session. And it doesn't matter how many people play, that type of escalation for the game is really nerve-wracking on the brain sometimes, because again, you may think that you have it all under control, but really you don't. You really, really don't until you start really powering up your spirits, making them super powerful, and generating that fear. That is what makes these adversaries really hard as they get stronger and stronger, because it's more on the island, more damage that they do, and they could even turn the Dahan against you. They could destroy your presence. It's just wild how hard this game could be. But that, my friend, is why it is so much fun to take the challenges from Spirit Island. Number 4, this game has a huge replayability. So many different ways to play. So as I mentioned earlier, the spirits are one way that you can make yourself a different game, having different spirit combinations, trying out different ones, seeing how they play, and going through the game that way. In addition to that, I talked about the adversaries, which are a group of settlers from various countries around the world that each one is very unique, has a huge power spike as they go along. And, they play very differently. One will be more focused on building, one will be more focused on exploring, and you'll be able to see how they play in conjunction with whatever spirits you have. There are also scenario cards where it changes the rules of the game pretty much right there in front of you. Maybe your island will be changed up differently. Maybe spaces will mean something else, go into it. You'll always get 2 defense here, or settlers will always build better here, something along that ways. I also didn't really mention it very much, but this is a fantastic solo game. You can play by yourself with 1 spirit. You can play multi-hand with 2 spirits. Or if you really want to go crazy, have 3 or more spirits at your disposal. Up to 4, I believe this goes up to. And yes, this game is way better with multiple people because you have more eyes on the table, being able to figure out where things are and keep a track on rules and things along that ways. But solo was amazing too, because you just kind of go in and you do your thing. And that's a great way for you to practice with each one of the spirits. Another point of replayability is how your island looks and how it lays out. There are multiple island boards in this game, and these boards actually connect together to form a bigger island. So if you're playing 1 player, it's a single board. If you have 2 players, it's 2 boards. 3 and 4 players have 3 boards connected, and there are multiple boards within the base. There are multiple boards in Jagged Earth. There are none in Branches and Claws. I'm sure Nature Incarnate will have a few as well, because it looks like a big box expansion. So even then, you have all of these boards that you can mix up, and boom, now you have a different layout of a board. And it's just so many different ways to play, and every time this hits the table, you will again have a very unique and different experience. And I think that's why I love Spirit Island so much, because there's certain games that I play, and after you play all of the components to it and all like the bells and whistles, you can go back and try it again, but that's really it. It's straight up, it goes from A to B to C and you're done. Whereas something like Spirit Island, it again has a very similar format each game, growth and then advancement of the settlers, and then going in to do other phases, and then just rinse and repeat through it. But because you have all the different powers, all the different spirits, all the different adversaries, all the different scenarios, it's just every game will be completely different, because no 2 games will ever be exactly mixed together and revealed the same way. Number 5, this is a beautiful game that lets the fury of nature shine. For this, I'm mostly talking about the base game. Now, this is the one that I had first. This was my very first Spirit Island I played, the one that I got into my collection, everything like that. When you get this, you get all of those components that I showed you in the bag. You get all like the little figures and the way that the cities look and the towns look. And it's really cool seeing all that set up, because it gives this awesome 3D element to the game as you're playing. Makes you really feel immersed to it. The spirits in this are on a nice thick cardstock here. These are beautiful. They don't really bend. They're very durable. So this is the base game that you're going to get this type of quality of component, Branches and Claws, Jagged Earth, all of that. I do warn you though, if Horizons is your first, you are going to get something a little bit less. So the spirits in this, as awesome as they are, like look at that crazy like snake here, Devourer, Teeth, Lurk, Underfoot. Love the names of these spirits. They're so cool. But as you can see, very, very thin cardstock. And just not bad, but not the hard cardboard that this is. In addition to that, a lot of the other components you get are like just flat pieces. Like these are all like the cities and towns in here. They're small as compared to the actual 3D models for you get in the base game. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter, in my opinion, that case, because they're just there as a representation of what it is that you're working for the game. I do prefer the thicker cardstock for the spirits. I wish these were that way, but I understand why, because Horizons is supposed to be more of a mass market thing where it goes out a little bit further for the average person and drops the price down. If they made all their spirits, you know, thicker, then this game would be more expensive and not many people would buy it. But going from here to here is a massive upgrade. So if you don't have Spirit Island and you're looking for it, definitely try Horizons first and then pick up the base, and you'll immediately feel a difference between what you get to what you're getting. The one thing that I really do like about Horizons is the board itself. Now, as I mentioned before, with the base game, the island itself comes in pieces and you'll be able to rearrange it your own way. There's also a sideboard to it where you'll be able to put your fear cards and track the movement of the settlers and things along that ways. And actually, Branches and Claws has a really cool attachment to it that makes it look like a giant volcano, and that introduces all the new aspects of that too, the new tokens, the events, things along that ways. Horizons, I think, is very well set up for the new player because everything is literally right here. There's really no additional boards to go off. You can see all the different aspects of like how the settlers move. That's fine, whatever. How the settlers move, where the blight goes, your terror card range. Like, it's all here, and it's all going to be the same every time you set it up. So if you're new to the game, this may not be a bad thing to get because you can just play it the same way. Like the Han will always go in the same spot. There's starting locations for all of the settlers and everything, so you can constantly just play through this using different spirits to get an idea of how the game flows, and then from there you can get the base game in order to switch things up. I just wanted to show this side as well because this is, of course, a bigger island, so you're not just limited to that one island that you saw there. At least you're able to get a bigger one as well in order to play as more people or to have more cards in your hand. So it's really a cool thing that they did for Horizons in order to make it easier for the new player. And again, I like this, but I like having the choices better because to me, that's what makes the game awesome. Having all of the different choices that you set up at the beginning of the game. So this way, every game, as I constantly say, is unique, different, and makes it worth having at your table every single time. And there you have it, everybody. Spirit Island from Greater Than Games, a game that will always be something new and exciting every time you play it, and the more expansions and the more promos and the more everything that they put out just keeps this game growing. As you know from people being on this channel, I'm a huge fan of Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, and that has the same aspect for it, where they're constantly releasing new heroes and new villains, and then, of course, new setup to the board and things along that way, new foot soldiers, whatnot. So this way, the game stays fresh. There's always something new to look at, and there's always something new to be excited for and to anticipate and to hype about. So when Nature Incarnate was out, they had all of the previews out for all of those different spirits that are going to be in there, and where they're all moderate to high complexity, I'm looking through them, I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Look at the way that looks. Look at the way this is and everything. And even though I didn't back Nature Incarnate, because I'd rather get Jagged Earth first before I go on to that one, I was still extremely excited for it, and I can't wait to see other people play it out there. Thank you all for watching this episode of Your Mileage May Vary. Let me know what your journey is like with Spirit Island. Have you done this base game? Do you just have Horizons? Have you gotten any of the expansions? What are your favorite expansions, scenarios, things along that ways? Let me know your favorite spirit and just all kinds of cool stuff like that. I do want to just quickly mention, I mentioned the deck building aspect of this, which is another reason why I love it. I only picked 5 reasons, but there's a 1,000 reasons why I love this game. There is a very slight one where you're adding new powers to your spirit as you go along, as it grows. And that's where the deck building comes in. Just to kind of clear that up in case someone was like, wait, you mentioned deck building. Guys, you have been absolutely amazing. Do look forward to Spirit Island, which will be coming to my channel soon. I am going to play the digital version of this game because It's just easier for the game to run itself, and I just have to worry about my hands and everything, rather than having to worry about the certain rules that I got to go with, and then my camera maybe shutting off, and the audio, and just there's 1,000 things that I have to figure out and keep an eye on while I'm just simply recording, that I will definitely miss some of the rules if I played this on the table. And I think playing it on digital will be better anyway, because it'll look nicer and just be a little bit cooler for you guys to look at. So definitely, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Home Gamer Dad so you don't miss any of those future playthroughs or anything else that I happen to put out that we are going to have a fun, great time on. So you guys are awesome. Take care of yourselves and each other. We are family forever, gaming together, defending our homelands against those that wish to come and pillage and add the blight to our world. You guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.